We have some people to thank, and genuinely, I totally appreciate these people. What they do for us each and every single week is really amazing. They believe in what we do so much that they give their hard-earned dollars, and they are the sponsors here at the top of the show. And those people are.
Yes, we've got what are we at? We're at four or are we at five? I don't remember, but we're gonna go through the list. But
I think
you're
we're
right.
four
They
here at the top.
they believe in us when we don't even believe in us sometimes. So that is commendable. Let's talk about our ultimate final lappers first here on the sponsorship tier. We've got Louisville Max there, the longest tenured ultimate final lapper. Thank you, Louisville Max. We appreciate you, buddy. Met the guy back at Indianapolis. Super, super awesome dude. Alex Taylor as well elevated his game up to the ultimate final lapper tier. So thank you, Alex. We appreciate you. Get in touch with me. I will get you some shirts. I need to know what size and what mailing address, but we'll get you hooked up with a TFL and a TC shirt. So let me know. Then let's get back to our other folks that are at the Only at Mattress Giant level tier. These sponsors as well here on the show. Devin over there at the $25 level tier, Mattress Giant level stuff and things and whatnot. We've got David Letchworth, longtime listener of the show, who was once a sponsor, came back, and now he's a sponsor again. So thank you, David. We appreciate you. And Joe Bike, the longest tenured overall sponsor in the history of the show. So thank you, thank you, Joe, and thank you everybody on this list. Back to you, Kerry. Let's get this show started, man.
Join in on the giving fun over there at patreon.com/the final lap. This is the Final Lap Weekly, a show where a couple of guys talk about all things NASCAR. My name is Kerry Murphy. I'm a longtime host of all things The Final Lap. Our co-host is Toby Christie, founder and editor-in-chief at TobyChristie.com and Racing America.
Yes. Man, I was at a cool event this week called Racers Forum, Kerry, over at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. A lot of cool conversations going on with integral figures in the sport. You're talking guys like Jeff Gordon, Brad Keselowski, Steve Valletta over there at 2311 Racing. You've got just tons of them. I mean, it was just packed. The whole place was packed with just people. Rick Ware from Rick Ware Racing was there. It was really, really cool. And to hear these people talking about the future of the sport and what we need to do to kind of improve things and what we're doing right and what we need to kind of work on. It was just really cool to hear the thoughts and the different the different kind of way people think things need to go in this sport. It was really, really cool to see.
Did you mention our show?
Well, I mean, that was part of it. Yeah, we definitely mentioned shows. We mentioned websites, and it was cool. It was a really good event.
All right, just making sure. Hey, that Kyle Larson guy had quite the week last week. He did some sprint car racing. He did some IndyCar qualifying of sorts for rookies. Oh, and then he won the Cup race.
Man, he doesn't stop, I swear. And it feels like the more of this kind of stuff he does, the better he performs in NASCAR. I know there's some people that when they start doing a lot of extracurricular stuff, their performance kind of tanks a little bit. This guy, he thrives in situations where he keeps the juices flowing on a racetrack. Doesn't matter what kind of racetrack it is. Doesn't matter if there's dirt covering it. Doesn't matter if it's in an open wheel car. Whatever it is, Kyle Larson seems to always find ways to improve when he's racing more on the racetrack.
I would think getting in the Cup car after IndyCar is like, oh, this is pretty easy. This is slow.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it was all kind of in slow motion for him, right? I mean, you would think.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it was a very good run. I mean, a dominant performance. I know he kind of had to hold on at the end of this thing. It wasn't quite the dominant performance at the end of the race, but he did win stage one, won stage two, led the most laps with 133 laps led on the day, and won the race. So, and now he's in the championship four to battle for his second championship. So, a mission accomplished for Kyle Larson and the number 5 Hendrick Motorsports team.
It's huge. I mean, they can now focus on Phoenix, although it sounds like they really want to go out and win this weekend too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You kind of control the momentum you have going into it by winning more, and you can also kind of control who can work their way into there by keeping other people out from winning. It's also a mental advantage when people will go, well, dang, we couldn't beat Kyle Larson. That sucks. What are we going to do? So it's one of those things where you just want to have the mental advantage going into a championship round like this. And at this point, they've got nothing else to work for but for a win. So we'll see how it goes.
Kind of dangerous, to be honest. Kind of dangerous to allow a Kyle Larson to have extra time to not worry about the current race at hand and focus on that championship race. And, it's going to be all in for that thing. It's going to be amazing to watch.
Yeah, and this is a guy that when he won 10 races a couple years ago, won the championship, it was like, holy crap. And then they came out the next year with next gen cars like, okay, they're back down to earth a little bit. Those next gen cars even things out. Well, here they
Yeah.
are. They win their way into the championship four, and they're going to be definitely a threat in that final race.
Now, this next thing I want to talk about is it obviously has to do with the race, but also spills over into news of the week. But Ryan Blaney, he finished sixth in Sunday's Cup Series race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and then his number 12 car failed post-race inspection, sending him to last place. But then on Monday, that penalty was rescinded, and everybody grabbed their dictionaries to see what that meant.
And as a guy who was covering this thing, I have to say it was kind of frustrating because the post-race inspection process typically takes about an hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
We're like 3 hours into this thing, and we hadn't gotten the official all clear. We hadn't gotten points, and it was like, okay, something's going on here. And then Hendrick tweeted, "Oh, we passed, we're good." So it was like, okay, so what's going on then? Why don't we have the full rundown here? And then it turned out, Ryan Blaney was disqualified for, the left front shock not being the correct length. And it was like, okay, that's interesting. And then we find out, about 24 hours later that, oops, NASCAR made a goof.
Yeah, I guess what, the template was off or it got bumped or because,
Yeah, the template,
it
there
was
an issue
checking
with
all the
template.
cars.
Right.
Yeah.
So NASCAR puts on display when there's a part that's wrong now at the track, and they should do the same with their own template. I think at this point they should bring it in and show,
Yeah.
okay, here's what went wrong. Here was what was wrong with our template. So all the race recaps and race results and point standings that we had done originally, we all had to undo and do it again, and then had to redo it yet again on Monday. So fun stuff. It was kind of chaotic, but ultimately, kudos to NASCAR for at least admitting the problem. They could have just brushed it on the rug, acted like, nope, he failed. Sorry. Sucks to be him.
Yeah.
But when they noticed there was a problem on Monday morning, they did rectify it and got it taken care of. So commendable on their side.
Everything reinstated as if nothing happened.
Right back to where it was originally. And it almost felt like it was like a Southwest Airlines ad for the NASCAR inspections team, right? You want to get away?
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah. So how does something like that happen? That's like, that shouldn't be happening. It should be kind of locked in.
Well, and you would think that more people would have failed with it being like that. But, Cup Series director Brad Moran said that was the one car that was just over the tolerance, even with the messed up template. And so they thought nothing of it. Got back to tech on Monday and we're doing their debrief and looked at the template and we're like, oh, oops.
Oops. Yeah.
So that's where we're at here. But again, seriously, they could have just acted like nothing was wrong, made the adjustment themselves, not told anybody, and kept the DQ up and made it look, put less egg on their face. But to their credit, they did what they didn't have to do, which was let us all know what was happening, own up to it, and give the penalty back.
Yeah. Now, after this race, we've got the bottom four drivers for you after Las Vegas: Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, despite that good finish and getting all that back, is still in the bottom four. And Chris Buescher, what did he have? 3 wins this year, and he's in the bottom four.
Yeah, well, and so Blaney, he's back in the bottom four, but he's only 17 points out now. He was going to be 56 points out, so I think he'll take it.
It's a little better.
Yeah, I think he'll take it. He can point his way in if things work his way. With 56 points out, there was no chance. It was over.
I mean, honestly, talking about Kyle Larson, he should put his thumb on the jugular, and just go for wins and make everybody else fight it out for points.
I mean, you would think that's the thing. And then you have these other guys that are all like kind of just trying to battle it out amongst themselves, trying to work their way in, and you're out there just sweeping up checkered flags. So,
right.
Ultimately, that's the goal, I would imagine.
I would think so. Hey, let's get into fantasy racing. Rowdy Dragon is waiting in the wings. He wants to do fantasy racing for this weekend at Homestead Miami Speedway and do a little recap of Las Vegas as well. So who are we to stop him? Here you go, Rowdy. Here is the podium, I guess, or the stage, or just take the microphone.
Hey, what is happening, all you final lappers? It's Rowdy Dragon back again with this week's Final Lap Weekly Fantasy Update. Well, we're fresh off of Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So, was NASCAR playing with your emotions this week? I know they got me. The point stripping from Blaney shuffled things up, only then to have his points rescinded, and the many minor heart attacks that we experienced was all for naught. Alright, this week we're going to Homestead Miami Speedway. Another 1.5-miler. But before we take a look at that track, let's take a look at our stage winners for Las Vegas. For your first stage, we've got Big Ol' Bacon, 1898, taking that one. Stage 2 goes to K-Suds, or Suds with the silent K. And our winner, Pepsi Man 1, comes up with 267 points. 59 stage points on the day. Maximum points was 278. Just a bit shy there. Between those three folks this week, we have a start to a buffet line. Well, y'all did pretty good this week nonetheless. Good job. All right, taking a look at Rowdy, Toby, Kerry, and our sponsors to see how we stand. Rowdy, I finished in the 152nd spot, victim to the Ryan Blaney debacle. That had me bouncing all over the place as far as standings, but I currently sit in P11 in the league. Toby Christie finished 128th, currently sitting 118th. Kerry Murphy, Jimmy is back, finished in P39. Good day for Kerry, climbs up to 125th in the rankings. Now looking at our sponsors, Joe Bike tops us all this week at P18, currently sitting in 17th spot in the overall standings. Louisville Max finished 122nd, currently sitting 29th. Devin, DL Racing King 11, finished 184th, currently sitting 128th in the league. David, Wolfie Dragonfly, he finished 94th and is currently sitting 33rd in the league. And Alex Taylor, if you want to hear your name here at the top of the fantasy segment, give me a shout out. Let me know what your handle is and we'll get you at the top of the show for at least the last 2-3 weeks here. And a quick thank you to all of our sponsors at the top of the show and at the bottom of the show. Thanks for what you guys are doing. It really helps the show out. All right, let's take a look at some picks for this weekend going to Homestead, Miami. We're going to start off with the 11 car, Denny Hamlin. He's got 18 races run at the track with an average finish of 9.8. He's got 5 top 5 finishes, finishing up the top 5 in 28% of his runs. He's got 12 top 10 finishes, finishing up in the top 10 in 67% of his races. He's got 397 laps led and 3 wins to his credit. Looking at his stage point picture, he's collected stage points in 10 out of 12 tries, 2 of those being stage wins. Now this is a good place to roster that 11 car. On high tire wear intermediates, Denny has an average speed rank of 8.0, placing him 6th on the list this season. Looking at all the high speed intermediates run this season, including the high tire wear tracks, has Denny's speed rank listed 2nd at an average of 5.11. Hamlin's last run in Miami saw him running an average position of 10.31 with an average driver rating of 90.8 on the day. In terms of speed, Hamlin ran 9th early and 7th late in a run. He was 6th in 4th segment speed, showing up 10th in green flag speed. Consider the 11 car for your roster for Sunday's race. All right, our next driver to look at is the 45 car Tyler Reddick. He's got 3 races run at the track with an average finish of 13.7. He's got 2 top 5s and 2 top 10s, finishing up there in both top 5 and top 10 in 67% of his runs. He's got 3 laps led, no wins for Tyler yet. Looking at his stage point picture, he's collected stage points in half of his races. That's 3 out of 6 tries. No stage wins for Tyler. Homestead is one of Reddick's best opportunities to make it through to the next round via a win. He loves to ride that cushion up against the wall and does it really well. On high tire wear intermediates this season, Tyler ranks 10th with an average speed rank of 10.33. Adding in the high-speed intermediates to the equation places the 45 team 5th on the board with a speed rank of 8.33. Last season, Tyler had a rough run wrecking out, finishing 35th on the day, but still came up with the 15th best total speed ranking. If Tyler can run the wall like he does all day without incident, he'll be a tough guy to pass and could very well come home with the trophy this weekend. All right, our last driver to look at, the 5 car, Kyle Larson. He's got 9 races run at the track with an average finish of 10.7. He's got 5 top 5 finishes, finishing up in the top 5 in 56% of his runs. And he's also got 5 top 10 finishes, again, 56% of his races finishing in the top 10. He's got 529 laps led with 1 win to his credit. He's collected stage points in 10 out of 10 tries. That's every race he's collected stage points in, and half of them stage wins. He's got 5 stage wins. Now, Homestead is one of the tracks that is synonymous with Kyle Larson. It's one of his best tracks, and he showed why in his last run here with a perfect driver rating and a win. On high tire wear intermediates this season, Kyle ranks 1st with an average speed rank of 4.67. Adding in all the high-speed 1.5 milers year to date also has Larson sitting on top with an average speed rank of 3.67. Looking at his loop data from last season's perfect run has him on top of every stat save for green flag passes, but when you're up front all day, there will obviously be nothing to pass. With his Las Vegas win, momentum is on his side and he is through to the final race, so he can just go for another win. You should roster that 5 car this weekend. Now, this is another opportunity for a contrarian play for those of you folks who have run out of Larsons. But again, he has to have a bad day, and personally, I don't see that happening. All right, that about does it here. We've got 3 races left to hunt down our current points leader in Troy Clark. He was one of the folks who had one of those heart attacks this weekend. He lost his top spot for a couple minutes and then got it back once Ryan Blaney got his points back. So we've got a good battle here in the front. Curious to see how it turns out. And as far as our playoffs leader, Edith Babe continues to own that spot, leading by a mere 20 points. All right, folks, that just about does it for me over here. But before I go, I want to invite you over to listen to Rowdy Dragon's NASCAR Fantasy Sportsbook right over there at TobyChristieCom. Trying to hook you up with some good picks for these head-to-head matchups. And I got a couple of ideas for long shots over there. Maybe those can be some contrarian plays. Come on over, have a listen, check it out. All right, folks, that about does it for me over here today. So as usual, thanks for sticking around and listening to the Final Lap Weekly Fantasy segment of the show. I'm Rowdy Dragon. I will be back next week.
There you go, Rowdy Dragon, getting you all set up for this weekend at Homestead Miami Speedway, which is a little weird because decades and decades, that was the finale, and now it's not.
I don't know how you feel about it, but it just feels weird that it's in Phoenix. I know I'm going to be going to Phoenix in a couple weeks, but it just feels weird still that it's over in Phoenix. I feel like Homestead was a great venue for it. I went to the Homestead finale in 2016. Excellent energy there. I'm sure the energy at Phoenix will be fine too. But just the racing that track over in Homestead yields, I think is championship caliber. You've got all the different lanes. People ride the top, people ride the bottom. Every single year, it just seemed to come down to the final laps, and it might this time around. You never know. But man, I just missed the Homestead finale. I really liked it a lot.
I'm on the exact opposite side of the fence as always.
Really?
I don't see the Homestead thing being that fun. I think it actually should be mixed up every single year. It shouldn't be just at Phoenix, but I understand why it is. And since they reconfigured Phoenix, it's kind of more interesting with that start-finish line off in a weird place.
I feel like the racing at Homestead's better, though. I just, sure, we got the cool hokey. They can dive down below the line and hopefully do this weird shortcut thing. But at the end of the day, the racing's not as close as it's perceived to be. You got the cool, exciting restarts, but I don't know. I just feel like, one guy kind of runs away with it at Phoenix, unless we have like a late race caution with the pit road drama where somebody gets a really good stop at the end and elevates to ahead of everybody. But I don't know. I'm with you though. I do think it should move around. But that being said, if it's between the two, Homestead and Phoenix, I want Homestead.
Yeah, well, you're wrong. Okay, let's get into news.
Love it. Wow, we hadn't done that in a while.
I know. I wanted to dust that off and bring it back a little bit. So let's take a look at TobyChristie.com. That's where everyone goes in the NASCAR universe to get their news, and this is where we are as well, because the Toby Christie part of it is actually on the show.
Yes, it's me. That's what we do here, right?
Yes, right. Yeah, so that's why.
Yes.
Let's talk about William Byron. He's got some pods.
Yeah, he's going to have a primary sponsorship from Pods Moving and Storage.
Sounds like a disease.
It does, right? But
he'll got some pods.
It's very easily curable, though, so that's good. But he'll be running that sponsorship at Martinsville, so brand new primary sponsorship for them. Pods has dipped their toe in NASCAR sponsorship before. This is the most notable team that they've ever kind of sponsored before, so this is going to be big for them and big for William Byron and big for Hendrick Motorsports.
Very cool. Yeah. What's going on with some payroll taxes and a former Cup Series owner that you've interviewed?
So, yeah, people that are longtime listeners of this show, this goes way back. This guy didn't like me very much because we were kind of chasing the story about him at the time, and had some pretty cool breaking news about it back in the day. But former Cup Series team owner of BK Racing, Ron Devine, has been indicted on 4 counts of failure to pay payroll taxes. So that's not good.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, when you don't when you make a business, you don't seek out getting indicted. So it's not good.
I would think. Yeah.
So that's not what you want. But this was
you get special bracelets though.
You get special bracelets.
I will say, though.
I will say that we all talked about how BK Racing was kind of a joke of a team. They were in the Cup Series from 2012 to 2018. Obviously, the Chapter 11 bankruptcy they had to file led to them losing their team charter, which went to Front Row Motorsports. And then things kind of shuffled around. But let's talk about the good that the team did do. I know it's kind of weird to kind of shuffle it back to the good things, but there were some guys that got their start there. Alex Bowman, Corey LaJoy. You're looking at some guys that are in the Cup Series today that are actually making a pretty good name for themselves that might not be there had it not been for BK Racing giving them, albeit not an ideal opportunity, an opportunity nonetheless. And they've all parlayed it into a pretty good thing. So let's at least take one positive away from our BK Racing experience.
What about you? I mean, it kind of put you on the map too.
I mean, that is a good point. So from that aspect, and I had some conversations with Ron in his hauler several times. I had many phone calls when we'd break apart of the story that he didn't like. He would call instantly. Ron. Yeah, he seemed to care about certain things. I don't know about the whole picture. I don't know, what his actual intentions were from day one to the end. But I don't think he intended to have all this happen, filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy, being indicted on payroll tax issues. So for what it's worth, I don't think he meant to do all those things. I think he had a different picture of how things might go, and maybe thought sponsorship was a little easier to acquire than it was. But nonetheless, this is where we're at. But yeah, a lot of people, myself included, did get some pretty big breaks from the BK Racing days. So I guess thanks, Ron Devine.
That's a weird way to go about it, but sure.
Strange.
Absolutely.
How did we end up there?
I'm not sure. What's going on with Trevor Bain?
Well, Trevor Bain, this is a really cool announcement. He's going to be running this week in the 25 Rackley War truck at Homestead Miami Speedway. So a guy that has had some pretty good opportunities with Joe Gibbs Racing in the Xfinity Series last couple of years is going to have a shot in a playoff contending truck in this race. So really cool to see. And then in addition to that, the team has also announced their Phoenix driver, which is a cool announcement as well. Stephen Parsons, the son of Phil Parsons, longtime NASCAR racer and now broadcaster. Stephen will get, I think this has got to be his most competitive ride to this point in his career. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do as well. He's done a lot of really good things with really underfunded organizations through his career, and this will be a chance for him to do something with a team that's actually shown some pretty good speed.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, the Ty Gibbs number 54 crew, they're going to have a couple of members that are taking an unexpected vacation.
Well, it was expected, not going into the race weekend, but as the tire flew off during the race, it was pretty expected. So that'll happen.
On Expedia. All right, what do I got going on for the next couple of weeks?
Right, what's next? So it's expected, but yeah, you don't go into the race weekend expecting it. So it was unexpectedly expected. But yes, so one of them
shaved the inside part of the wheel off.
Yeah, man, we've been seeing some weird stuff. Those things don't get quite lined up on there right, and you think it's tight, but it's just kind of wedged on. You go out there and it's kind of just shears things away, and those things go flying. So interesting stuff. I also wanted to kind of talk about this. I had an actual conversation with Austin Cindric about this. But his number 2 team is going to be running a special pink version of the Freightliner paint scheme this week, the Tron car everybody talks about. They ran it last year at Homestead as well, but they're going to run it this year. They have an interesting touch on it this year, though. So on the back deck lid of the car, they're going to have names of a bunch of breast cancer warriors. And Austin is actually going to be handwriting these names himself, and they're making decals out of the handwritten versions of their names.
Okay, why couldn't he just sign the deck?
Well, I think they wanted it to be more permanent. I don't think they wanted it to be like Sharpie that could wipe off, because especially with Homestead, there's a lot of dirt and grime that kind of flies around.
Gotcha.
So kind of a cool little touch. Plus, it's one of those things where I kind of suggested this to them on the call that they should make, an additional decal for each one of the people, and I think they're going to do that. So we'll see. But really cool that they get that like nice little personal touch of Austin actually handwriting the names. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I see that. It looks really good too.
Yeah. That was the thing. Cool. He was concerned about his penmanship. I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, that looks like a professional font. Like.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah, and so when he was talking about it, he's like, yeah, I actually do a lot of handwriting myself anyway, because he actually, when they do debriefs at the end of the week, instead of like typing it into a computer, he actually handwrites his, and the team, kind of like hates them for it because they have to scan it in and put in OneDrive, or not OneDrive, but OneNote and all this stuff. And so he's like, it's just how I like to do it. I like to handwrite it because it keeps him accountable, lets him see like in writing, and he's actually just a personal touch. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but he loves
Wow.
writing it. And so I guess it's paid off because these decals look pretty decent.
That is very unusual in these times. Like
Yes.
I live and breathe on iPhone notes. Everything is in there. So
Man, me too. I've got so many shopping lists in there that it's ridiculous. I need to like start erasing those things. I've got so much stuff in there.
yeah,
But yeah,
no,
no,
totally.
it's interesting.
All right, I've got a ton of stats. You sit by and just listen, Toby. I've got a ton of stats for Homestead Miami Speedway, and then you can add your flavor to it. Race number 34 of 36 on the overall schedule. Race number 2 of the round of 8 on a 1.5-mile oval. Banking, we'll get to that in a second. I want to talk about the purse, $7.6 million, and your shot to get pole vaulted into the championship race at Phoenix. Now we've got the banking up to 20 degrees. Front and back stretches, is this right? Is it equidistant?
Yes, this one's equidistant.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. 1,760 feet, back and front stretches. Wow.
Amazing.
Cup
Incredible.
Race, 267 laps, 400.5 miles. Stages, 80, 85, and 102. And last year's pole sitter was William Byron. Last year's winner was Kyle Larson. That should tell you something about this track in Hendrick Motorsports. And all 3 series are in action this weekend. Truck Series, Saturday, 12 p.m. on FS1. Xfinity Series, 3 p.m. on USA. And the Cup Race, Sunday, 2:30 p.m. All of them are Eastern, and this one's on NBC.
Yes. And the rest of the way we're on NBC. So we'll be on regular network TV the rest of the way. This is interesting, Kerry. So we're going into this Homestead race here where a lot of different grooves, a lot of different people can kind of move around throughout the day. We've got one guy secured into this playoff field. We've got 7 others trying to work their way into the championship 4. Who do you think? What do you think we got going on here?
Well, don't forget the rest of the drivers that are still hungry for a win and maybe some sort of momentum heading into next year.
Yeah, whatever. Those people. Well, and then you've got Kevin Harvick too. So we didn't mention this in the news of the week, but he's running the throwback Budweiser scheme from his 2014 Cup Series championship season. And the race is named after him, the Forever 400, presented by Mobil 1. So there'll be some bragging rights on the line there for him as well. So we'll see if he can pull it off. But you look at this field, man, there are a lot of guys that can pull this off that are in this field. Like, I really feel like we're in a situation here where we could be talking about a lot of different scenarios at the end of this race.
For sure. Back to the Harvick thing. I looked at that paint scheme. I couldn't believe it was 10 years old, or almost 10 years old.
Right? It makes you feel old, doesn't it? It's like,
it's weird because it looked modern, It looked
there are fans, a big portion of fans that are out there on like X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it these days, that weren't there to see this when it happened. And it's just unreal because it just feels like yesterday. It's just, man, it's just starting to make me feel really old.
Yeah. Back to your question, it's going to be a Hendrick Motorsports car.
You've got a Hendrick Motorsports car. So that's the question. Now, which one? And remember, in the Owners' Points Championship, there's an additional one still live with the number 9 car sitting at 60 points below the playoff cut line there in the Owners' Championship deal.
Ooh, that's not sounding good.
No, but if he wins, he's in. So
we're talking about Chase Elliott, of course.
Yeah, so there's another aspect there where that could really shift things in the Owners' Points race as well. If you get a Chase Elliott win, and like you said, Hendrick's been really good at this track. They didn't perform very well, the 9 team that is last week. So I'm sure they're going to want to put that in the rearview mirror this week with a good run. We'll see how that goes, but man, that's another aspect to keep an eye on too, is the owner's title.
I'm concerned about Alex Bowman. He doesn't seem to be up to the caliber of the rest of the Hendrick crew for some reason. And what's going on there?
Well, I can tell you he's still recovering from the back deal. I know when we got
that's still the issue.
Yeah, we got done with a few of the races this year, and you go up to him, "Hey, how's the back feeling?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm still hurting." So It's just one of those things where they needed him to get back before he was 100%. They felt like medically he was fine, but as far as the pain and everything else like that, he was not quite 100% from that. And who knows, like back stuff lingers. You never know how long that's going to take. But it's one of those things where that's going to be something he's going to have to work on. But I think in the off season, they give him some time to strengthen his back a little bit more. It'll give him time to kind of just let that heal a little bit better. And maybe he comes back out firing next year. But I mean, you even seen Chase Elliott when he missed some races this year. He came back, was not very good initially. So it's one of those things where it's hard to kind of take some weeks off, then come back in and come with these guys that have been running all year with no break. So
yeah, but he's Chase Elliott.
He is Chase Elliott, but I mean, he's still struggling. It's not one of those things where he's going out winning and leading all these laps and dominating. He's still struggling to do what we've seen Chase Elliott do in the past. So it's one of those things where I think we take it for granted how much you have to actually be in the groove and doing it each and every week to be really, really good at this. You can't just come off the couch.
So this is the basically the last 1.5 mile track of the season. Then it's a short track. So all the 1.5 mile drivers are got to get it done this weekend. And then all the short track drivers are like, oh, I can wait till Martinsville.
You think that's what they're thinking? That's what's going on there? No?
I'm just trying to throw another headline out there, something to stir up the pot.
Well, there you go. I mean, that does sound about right for you.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I think it's going to be an interesting race. I'm excited about this weekend's race. I know you're not high on Homestead apparently, from what you've said, but I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good race.
I think it's a fine, regular season. It's the championship I just didn't, care too much about.
What is it like? You just didn't care about it, or you just wanted it to keep moving around?
I don't know. The racing just wasn't championship worthy. I don't
know.
I still think, yeah.
That the Carl Edwards Tony Stewart battle there that year wasn't championship worthy to you?
Yeah, that was fun, but I mean,
the Harvick trying to get by Newman and holding him off in the closing laps wasn't fun to you?
Still, nah.
Man,
just a boring layout.
I feel like we've seen a lot of good racing at this track.
All right.
Weigh in on it. Let us know what you think, listeners of the Final Lap. Am I right or is Kerry right? What's going on here? I feel like we've been watching two different Homesteads.
Maybe.
I feel like you're watching the old, the little mini Brickyard version of Homestead back when they first brought it out.
Before the reconfig. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, anyway, it's this weekend. It's not the championship race, so I'm good.
I feel like you got old man shaking fist syndrome. You're just wanting to be mad about it.
Like that?
Yeah, that.
All right, let's look ahead to Homestead Miami Speedway regardless, and we're going to be watching that race, and Rowdy Dragon's going to be taking notes, and he's probably getting ready for vacation here soon.
I'm sure he is. He's been putting in some work this year. He deserves it. He's really put in a pretty big effort this season, and it's been appreciated. Sure. It's been really cool to see. He's done a really, really good job as always.
Yeah. Shall we wrap it up? I think so. The checkered flag is flying on the show.
Yes.
So this has been the Final Lap Weekly. Catch us next week right here when we will recap Homestead Miami Speedway and preview the half mile of mayhem, Martinsville, and all the stories in between. Toby, you and I will chat next week.
We will, and I hope next week really is the half mile of mayhem again. We need it back. We need some action over there at Martinsville. I'll be there. Martinsville hot dog in hand. If you see me at the track, let me know. I might buy you one too.
Wow, there you go. Toby Christie is going to buy you a hot dog at Martinsville if you find him. So he's going to be better bring a big check for that.
Well, they're only $2. Very small concession stand item.
It could add up. Patreon paying people. We love them. Thank you so much. The Final Lap. Join in on the giving fun.
Yes.
I don't know what happened there, but you can go ahead.
That was weird. Your microphone totally changed. I
wonder if my AirPods ran out of battery.
They may have. So that's interesting. But yeah, we'll roll on here with the list of Patreon folks. Strange stuff there. If you're watching that on YouTube, I'm sure it was a culture shock as Kerry went from his AirPods to now being all up in your face. So it's interesting.
Right. Yeah,
we've got a awesome list of people who contribute to this here show. So thank you all. Seriously, we talked about the sponsors at the top of the show. Let's talk about them yet again. Alex Taylor, our newest Ultimate Final Lapper. Thank you, Alex. We've got Joe Bike on the list, our longest tenured sponsor. David Letchworth. We also have Louisville Max, and of course, Devin over there at the Only at Mattress Giant level tier. Thank you, Devin. Thank you all you guys. We've also got an amazing list of cast of characters here that also contribute at lower levels, but they mean no lower to us in our hearts. We still appreciate these folks as much as anybody else. Lalo's over there. We appreciate you, Lalo. We've got Robert Keane, Mr. Jimmy B, Jimmy James, 1983. Quentin Whitaker, my buddy from Daytona, I think he was pretty excited about Ryan Reed coming back this week in the Xfinity Series and getting that top 20 in his first race in like 5 years. So really cool to see. And I'm sure Quentin Whitaker and his kiddo were pretty excited about that. We've got Simon Green from across the pond, Troy Clark from down under. We've got Peter Johansson, David Reed, James Maples II. We've got Evan Taylor, Mike Hamilton, Nick Reed, Scott Clark, Justin Kapasinskis. He's the man. He's a huge Kyle Larson fan. I'm sure he's excited about that Championship 4 appearance now for Kyle Larson. And of course, we've got the longest tenured listener of the show, the guy who's been listening since episode number 1 of now 801, Charles K. Miller. Thank you, Charles. We appreciate you, and we appreciate everybody on this list. Back to you, Kerry, to wrap things up.
Patreon.com/The Final Lap. Join in on the giving fun.
And join on the revolution.